Game number 1 in our next series here at the Gold League, everybody. BTG, Beyond the Game Cougar, goes up against Pineapple. So I don't know the Pineapple team, and it's not Team Bolu. I know we said in the past that Bolu apparently is the Chinese word for pineapple, and in case that you don't know, Team Bolu is the name of Shrimpy, Poik, and Wooby's team. They actually play here in Gold League as well. So some of you might be asking still, what exactly is Gold League? Gold League is a Chinese-run tournament where every team that wants to can enter, so it's open to the public. We have some teams that feature former HGC pros. We have a couple of teams even that feature foreign players from a Chinese perspective, like the Koreans that we've seen play for the One, like for CE, or in this case, or in the case that I talked about, Team Bolu with the Swedish guys. But that also means that in the first round of the tournament, we obviously have, in some cases, a bit of a discrepancy between the skill levels of the team that face off against each other. Looking at this right now, my immediate favorite for this series would be BTG Cougar, because even if they are playing with a couple of sub-ins there, they are still former HGC players on a level where they should be able to outperform their opponent quite easily. But it's a lot of fun so far watching this. I mean, the past series that we have with the One showcased pretty quickly what kind of a skill gap can exist if you throw some former HGC players up against a team that isn't quite as experienced. So we're going into Battlefield of Eternity right now, which is the first map of this best of 3 here. And in terms of bans, I mean, it's a pretty traditional setup. I want to say that the ban against Alarak is maybe slightly out of the ordinary if you look at normal ban patterns within Europe. But we still have Maiev taken out. We still have a bit of a focus on the tanks with Diablo banned. Ana these days finds her way into the first bans or early picks a lot more often. But we also have a very, very early Alexstrasza plus Reyna. Now, Alex really surprised me a little bit because I'm pretty sure this is Battlefield of Eternity, and Alex is usually not quite the hero that you immediately think of when you're playing on BOE. Normally that's more a hero that you find on maps like Volskaya Foundry, Infernal Shrines. So we have to remember that Pineapple is probably the underdog in this series. Now this is also a clean feed that we're relying upon right now, which means that I have zero control over the camera work. I can't influence the UI that is being used here. We can't look up stacks on quest talents, for example, so please keep that in mind. I also can't control the camera itself, obviously. So just something to throw out here already before we're heading into the first game. Zarya being banned, and there's a couple of the picks here already highlight that when you look at Chinese Heroes of the Storm, it was always wild. They like to be aggressive, they're always a little bit weird, and it's pretty much a brawl fiesta that we oftentimes get to see here. As we are still in the early rounds of the tournament, as I mentioned before, we can expect a few more one-sided games maybe, but especially heading into the later rounds, it should become more and more interesting. Since also the top 8 teams will play in an offline setup, so they will make it to the offline event, so the offline finals of the Gold League tournament here. Up to that point, games are going to be played online. If you're looking over to BTG, they actually play this right now with Murder and Tirana, so a little bit old school what they're having here. Trying to burn heroes to the ground is Team Pineapple though, with Kael'thas and Leoric. It is an interesting setup. Kael'thas is another hero that you wouldn't really expect to see on Battlefield of Eternity. This is another hero that I would more so expect to see on Infernal Shrines. At this point, I'm honestly starting to doubt myself a bit. Obviously, I don't speak Chinese and I can't read the top, but if that map turns out to be Infernal Shrines, that would make a lot more sense from a draft perspective. As it stands, though, the draft of BTG is way more suited to play on BOE than what we're seeing from their opponent, because they have Tyrande. They have also Greymane right now, which, again, can be great on both maps, but he's a hero that is fantastic at dropping immortal hit points quite easily. Last pick, on the other hand, what are we going to have from Team Pineapple? They still need a main tank, and they actually play Arthas in a main tank role here. So a little bit of lockdown with this too, and they can, through Arthas, also proc the level 1 talent on the side of Reyna. So we're going to check that out now, as we're heading into game number 1, ladies and gentlemen, at the Gold League. Game number 1. We are indeed on Battlefield of Eternity. I was getting a little bit confused looking at the draft of Team Pineapple, because it was a draft that I could have more so envisioned on Infernal Shrines, but yeah, that's not really the case. So personally, I'm looking at this and I'm like, you guys are not quite set up for this map. I'm also looking at that level 1 talent choice on the side of Arthas, and I'm already questioning a bit what they're trying to do here. Now they're running Arthas in a main tank position, keep that in mind. And he goes currently for his trade, so a little bit curious how that's gonna work for them. Muradin, by the way, with a third wind on level 1, so not going into Perfect Storm for stacking, but instead trying to just like maintain himself through all of this whenever he gets poked. I'm really curious to see how this is going to pan out now for the red team, because as I said before, I don't know them. A lot of the names don't ring a bell either. It's going to be interesting to see what level they're playing at. BTG is of course known if you followed HGC China in any way, or if you watched BlizzCon in the past few years. So we'll definitely recognize a couple of the names that we're having on their side. And they have a setup that caters to the map quite well too, so it's going to be interesting to see how Pineapple stacks up against this and if they have a chance of maybe making the plays here. So talking plays, there's a setup attempt right here already. Druid is eating a lot of damage from Kael'thas, who's starting to focus him slightly. I talked about this during the draft, but I want to highlight it again. This is a clean feed that we're using, which means that we have no control over the observing, no control over which UI is being used, and I'm also not in a position where I can check stats or stacks in any way. So I'm pretty much in the same boat that you guys are, watching what unfolds in front of us and providing the commentary about it. So this is going to be the case for all of the Gold League games. Outside of that, obviously, we're going to still rely on the UI that we've been using for the last few weeks. But I gotta admit that down here, we're actually, well, just as I was about to say, Pineapple is starting to do well. We're seeing the kill against Arthas come in as he walks out a bit too far and is getting way too greedy. That quick combo that we have with the stuns was just a bit too much for him to handle, and it already also shows that you can blow up the front line very, very easily. That good old meme of never focus the tank, obviously not true. If you have a good burst composition, then you can blow anybody to pieces, and with Tyrannus Hunter's Mark and Greymane coming in then for the hits, you can drop Arthas quite quickly here. I really just want to see what happens when we have the objective spawn, because I'm still looking at that setup and I'm asking myself, where's your plan? For example, you look at Kael'thas, and Kael'thas is another hero that I, as I said before, could have seen on a map like Infernal Shrines. He can do well in close quarter comeback, and he can also do obviously fantastic in a setup where your opponent is forced to stack on an objective. But on this map, if you're going for a mage, you're normally looking more so towards Li Ming, because she has that poke potential from a distance whenever the objective is up. That's not something that we're seeing here. So I'm a bit curious how that's gonna work out for them right now. Either way, we still have the objective about to spawn. Level 4 abilities are in too, and that gives us pretty much what you would expect for most heroes. Well, actually, we have a few adjustments that we're going to go over in a second. But for now, the fights are starting up here over the objective, and the red team is starting to become extremely aggressive. But they're going too deep, and Kael'thas is down already. Once again, Muradin looking for the Stormbolt, but Druid has to be careful as the Dragon Queen gets popped too. And the lockdown against Tyrael is good, and that's the kill right there. Kill and counter kill is what we are seeing for the time being, as they're moving in to try and drop another. But so far more of a defensive position that we have. Reverberation has actually been taken as the level 4 talent choice for Muradin. It's still something that I find extremely weird to look at this point. Thunderburn is just such an established talent these days, because you're looking for the synergy with the level 13 healing static. And it's a little bit mind-blowing to me that we're not getting that. So instead trying to go on the auto attacks. And that doesn't make a lot of sense unless you are a Wood League or a Bronze player. Then you're looking at this and you're saying, well, they have 2 auto attackers, we need to get Reverberation. But the times where that talent reigns supreme against heroes like Greymane and Illidan have long passed. Thunderburn is just the go-to, and for very good reason. Well, let's see if the adjustment on level 13 makes a little bit more sense out of this, because for the time being, that is not quite the choice that you would expect here. The fight continues, and as expected, the blue team is fantastic on the objective, and they're trying to get a little bit more. Muradin is nearly getting a solo kill against Alex here, but Alexstrasza barely survives. Leo, on the other hand, he's getting dropped, and Muradin, the little dwarf that thought he could. But down he goes. The kill against Alexstrasza still makes it well worth it, and we're also having Kael'thas getting dropped. He's not the only one. Arthas falls too, as Meng is setting up another kill. Arthas himself with the completion of his level 1, but pretty early there too. then again, the question is always, do you really need that at this point? Celestial Attunement on level 7, Muradin. After his level 4 choice, I'm very curious to see what the rest of his talents are going to be like. His level 7, holding it back. The suspense. It's killing me a little bit. Okay, give him the axe. We're still going standard here, at least on the level 7 choice. And they should get a lot of value here, topside. I mean, they are still a level ahead. They already dropped the Fountain. They should be able to, if not drop the fort, then significantly damage it. And looking even for more kills. Arthas, on the other hand, also not going... I mean, he went Rune Tap on level 7. If you want to go Rune Tap in the first place, then I would still suggest that you go Icy Talons on level 4. If you go into an auto-attack build with that focus on your trait on 1, then that would make a lot of sense for you too. But instead, they're playing this slightly different. So Rune Tap for the added self-sustain. Always a little bit tricky, especially if you're looking at the other side and which heroes are being played. I would suggest that that might not be the best choice for him. If you have Icebound Fortitude against a setup with Tyrande and Greymane, that normally helps you to survive a lot longer. So you're not as susceptible to these burst setups that we're going to see from BTG. So Arthur's definitely living a very dangerous life. If there are prolonged fights around the Immortal, then Rune Tap is going to give him more sustainability. That's definitely true. But I think Arthur's biggest problem is going to be that with Tyrande, Muradin stun setup, and then also, of course, Genji plus Greymane pouncing on the target, we could see Arthur's getting blown to pieces within seconds without Icebound Fortitude. So we'll see if that's the case. For now, we're actually having BTG just rocking the game. I mean, they dropped the top 4. They're going for the bottom right now. They're trying to make the play again. Here comes the stun. Good setup. Dragon Queen is being used and should not be able to get any value here because the team is already disengaging. And just as I said, Druid said like he wants to have a party because level 10 is there. And they're going in right away. That triple kill. As they are absolutely murdering it right now. Great kills here on the side of BTG Cougar. They sync it up with a level 10, go in, and they just destroy in this case. Tyrael not even part of that party here. But with now 9 kills against 2, this game is going one direction, and that's pretty much what we expected. Again, it isn't former HTC team going up against a team that, at least for the time, is unbeknownst to us. So, with the objective now spawning and heroic abilities not ready, it's another play. Playmaker, by the way, on level 10, the choice of Muradin. And so far, that's working out for him. It's like, who needs Avatar? If you can make the plays. Always make the plays, baby. Now, talking about plays, what we need is level 10. Also, look at the build that we're seeing here for Kael'thas. We're speccing heavily into the trade now, too. On level 4, we're seeing him with a mana tap. And then on level 7, the Sunfire Enchantment over Burn Flesh or Sun King's Fury. It's gonna be... very curious to see if he gets any value out of that. For now, we're having Hyperion, we're having also Phoenix. There's a lot of AoE damage that you can stack, especially if you hit the Entomb well. But it is a pretty hefty Immortal that we're going to see walk through the top lane. There's already Kael'thas in trouble. Playmaker making the plays here. Lifebinder being used too. And they're actually trying to get a kill against Greymane right now. There's a lot of AoE coming out of this, but is it going to be enough? Doesn't look like it. Leo instead is in trouble. Barely gets out of this one. Genji is protected and able to move out. And during all of this, the Immortal is just saying, well, I'm going to kumbaya it up at the top lane, boys. If nobody tries to attack me, that's fine. I'm going to get more damage in. Hashtag value town. And he is certainly going to town on that front wall. Dropping the turret immediately, going through the wall here too. Ults have pretty much all been used with the exception of the Dragon Blade and also Sanctification. There they go for Arthas. No Icebound Fortitude, and that means good night, Sweet Prince. They make the play for Shadowstorm as Kael'thas was trying to flank here. I mean, who hasn't seen that dangerous, murderous Kael'thas flank? We've all experienced that at some point or another. Usually doesn't go that well. And after we had a very, very early second game, and in the last series, looks like BTG Cougar is trying to not be outdone here. They're making the play for the core already. Only 9 minutes and 30 seconds into this. And this is going to be successful. There's the ult of Tyrael, and that is game, ladies and gentlemen. BTG Cougar with a lead against Pineapple. Game number 2, everybody. BTG making it a quick one on game number 1. I mean, again, games like these where you have a bit of a skill gap between of the teams just showcase, in my opinion, perfectly how you can play very aggressive and exploit mistakes on the other team's side if you know what you're doing. So to me personally, this is actually really refreshing, because oftentimes you see two really good teams go up against each other. One of them might be a bit stronger and then wins the game easily, and all of a sudden you have people commentating and, oh my god, these people are bronze, they don't know what they're doing, this is horrible. And now you're looking at this and you have teams go up against each other where there is actually a skill gap, and you see that a game like this ends at 9 minutes into the game. And you have to also consider at this point, BTG is a team that whenever we went to a big event in Heroes of the Storm, like BlizzCon for example, they usually got eliminated even before the bracket phase, so in the group stage. So there is another big gap between them and top teams like KSV Black, for example, or Dignitas, the Fnatic of old, and other teams like this. So it just showcases really well where the different levels of play usually lie. But with that said, we're going into map number 2. And as I think about it, I actually missed what the map is. Obviously, I can't read it right now, so let's see if we can guess it by what heroes are again picked and banned here. I'm going to focus more on BTG Cougar for that, because as I explained in our last draft, Pineapple didn't really do a great job drafting for the map in the first place. We still have Genji banned out, and we have also Maiev taken away, so is Zeratul. So a lot of these melee assassins and engage heroes that can force a fight are currently banned out. I think this was Infernal Shrines actually. So if that's true, then I feel the draft that we saw the last time for Pineapple would make more sense now. Alexstrasza gets more value on this map than she does on Battlefield. Same is true for Kael'thas as well. But here comes our first pick. We have actually a bit of a... and there's an Alexstrasza first pick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it is indeed Infernal Shrines. I guess in theory it could be Volskaya, but that seems to me like a pick for that. It's actually an interesting one too, because I'm not really sure if BTG would traditionally have picked Alexstrasza this high up. But since their opponent has already shown on a map that isn't ideal for Alexstrasza, that they want to play the hero, it's not only a good pick for yourself, but you pick it away from your opponent too. But there's an immediate deck at Kayn on the other side, so you can control the shrines pretty well too. And a Sylvanas very early on as well. This is what I was actually about to talk about. We have seen a bit of a lack of Hanzo here today. So this is our first Hanzo today in Gold League. We're having also Druid again on his Turiel. Of course, another fantastic hero to control the areas around the shrines here if you want to. But let's see how that's going to work out now for the red team. Because so far with Sylvanas, I mean, she has been changed, but she's still a bit of a hero that is in that pocket where if you already are winning the game, if you're taking objectives, you can just emphasize those power plays even more and can get more value out of any push that you execute with a Punisher, with a Protector, with an Immortal. So it's a hero that just accelerates victories. Ban against Valeera. Look at that. Someone was a bit worried about good old Sylvanas getting one shot here. Nubarak ban comes through on the other side as BTG Cougar is trying to make sure that there's no Cocoon shenanigans happening. And well, with that, time to shine. We already saw one setup with Sylvanas here today, a bit earlier in one of the previous series against the One, where I had an attempt at a backdoor strategy, which, I mean, let's put it mildly, it backfired a little bit. So in our game at hand, what's going to be the weapons of choice? Stitches Muradin. Okay. So basically 2 main tanks that we have now. And I'm not 100% certain how this is going to work out. I'm currently wondering who's solo laning. I mean, who's solo laning here? Are they going to pick another melee character to set onto the solo lane, or are they picking something along the lines of Phoenix who can solo lane too? Not quite sure what the play is. Could definitely go for even Playmaker here. Could like try and control that a bit, but now we're having immediately Tychus and Malthael as a response. So 2 heroes that are having a really decent track record when it comes to deal with high hit point heroes, and both Stitches and Muradin fall into that category. But yeah, what's the last pick now? What is a solo lane? Having Muradin solo lane is a horrible idea. Having Stitches there doesn't really do too much for you either, especially since he's the one you're trying to use to create danger in the 4-man with the hooks. And they're going for Kael'thas. A hero pick that makes a lot more sense on Infernal Shrines, but I am very heavily questioning the sense of the composition here. Unless they have some strategy and some setup that I'm not thinking about right now, I feel they're going to have a lot of problems in the early game, especially on the solo lane. Unless they want to go for a completely different setup here. But let's find out. Let's head straight into map number 2. Game number 2. We are on Infernal Shrines, and BTG Cougar made it a very, very quick first game and took the lead in the series. Now we're heading into the second game. And things got very interesting during the draft, as we have 2 main tanks picked for the front line on Pineapple's side. So definitely very hit point heavy, but that's what Malthael and Tychus are for. Both of them are going to be eager to break through that front line and take those guys out. But what is going to be the solo lane? Right now we're not having a solo lane at all. Instead we're having a 4-man headed to the top, trying to snipe a tower with Sylvanas, I'd say. I don't... Okay, so they're gonna try and drop a tower here. They go into the top lane. Stitches is trying to slow this rotation down a little bit, but then they're getting half a tower and that's it. Okay, a bit of an attempt here to go for Alexstrasza, but yeah, my question would rather be, how is this going to run in the mid and late game? Stitches is apparently really the one that they are going to try and have on the solo lane here, and that just surprised me more than anything else. He's not really a hero that is absolutely fantastic in this setup, and normally you would like to have him in a rotation so that he can be a bit more aggressive. Now Stitches actually starts to rotate to the top, and they put Muradin on the solo lane, which makes my stomach turn, because, like, seriously. Okay, so the 3-1-1 setup for them now. Guys, I'm a little bit afraid here for Pineapple. This is not really a strategy that has proven to be very powerful in the past, to say the least. They are now dedicating 2 heroes to clear the lanes, whereas on the other side we're having Cougar with only 1. We're seeing Malthael doing his rotational thing. Look at Muradin here trying to take the wave down, like he's absolutely useless in this setup. And yeah, Kael'thas is sitting mid-side in the meantime, so there's not a lot of pressure coming anytime soon from Pineapple with this setup that they're having here. Cougar has very easy rotations, they're quite safe, they don't have to be afraid of anything, to say the least, and they're actually going for aggressive invades now, going straight for Sylvanas, who barely jumps out, but not far enough, as Tyrael follows and gets the first kill here. So yeah, that start isn't really working out too well for them, as you can already tell. So we're about to have them get another one. Not attacking the fountain though. Now traditionally what you would have seen here is a team trying to provide vision onto that fountain by simply using a spell over there that allows the Khazra camp to attack the fountain too, and then you have a good chance of taking that already away from your opponent before the first objective even spawns. They neglected to do that, so they don't have that slight advantage, but of course the camp is still getting some value for them. Muradin is currently realizing at the bot lane that he's not really a good solo laner. Having a tough time with this. I mean, he can auto-attack the way to victory, but it's going to take a few years for him to make that happen. Interestingly enough, we have also in the rhythm taken on the side of Tigers, not going into the bigger they are here, but trying to stack. Now, as I've said before, we can't influence the UI here. We're relying on a clean feed for casting, so I can't double-check the stacks that he has on that for you. But still, interesting choice, to say the least, to go for that talent right now. Because with 2 heroes that are as hit point heavy as what we're seeing here for the opponent, I would have expected the bigger they are to be used. And then especially Malthael trying to capitalize on it after at level 10 and trying to get the last rights through. But as it stands, I mean, we're having already a level lead for BTG. And yeah, the camp taken a bit late for Pineapple topside, so now the 22-23 stack lead. And with Alexstrasza in the mix, I mean, all you have to do right now is pop the Dragon form. You're pretty much guaranteed a Punisher. That's what they're more or less doing. Muradin, by the way, also going into the same setup that we saw before, going for the auto attacks, and he's dead too. So yeah, talent choices are pretty wild here in Gold League. You can definitely tell that, and that's not the only thing. Oh, the 1 kill turns into 3 as Muradin is only the first one to fall, and Stitches and Kael'thas follow. So yeah, that didn't age well either. Now we're having the Punisher moving through the bot lane. Sylvana's not quite getting the value that she was hoping for. Level 4 talents are ready on the red side, but we are seeing already level 7 advantage for BTG as they are starting to move in, and boom! Down goes Sylvanas. Yeah, showcasing once again that they are a little bit outclassed here. BTG is just doing the works, and so far they haven't really shown any weakness either in this. Again, this is the very early rounds of the tournament here. Sign-ups were free. There's more than 160 teams that signed up for this. But yeah, this is starting to become a bit worrisome. Look at Muradin alone. I mean, Muradin is dying again, like he has no chance. Meng isn't even doing anything, he's not even getting off the clouds. Malthael is just sitting there and he's saying like, dude, if you dare to steal that kill away from me, we're gonna have words later. And Hanzo is just sitting there, it's like, yeah, okay. I'm gonna leave that to you. But now we have a 2-level lead. And damn son, this is the reckoning right there. Looks pretty brutal. I mean, so far, Malthael is staying topside, and honestly, it breaks my heart every single time I see Muradin head onto the solo lane. If you've ever played Heroes of the Storm, I mean, quick match, Hero League, doesn't really matter what, and you were, as the main tank Muradin, all of a sudden forced to soak a solo lane because your team just didn't care about experience and minions, and you find yourself on that lane trying to get the XP, you know how Muradin's wave clear is just absolutely abysmal. The hero has a lot of good tools and things that he can bring to a team fight, but the one thing that he definitely doesn't have is a good wave clear that helps him to do that. Judgment, baby! And the kill! Oh god, that's the kill right there. And a lost opportunity for Malthael. Could have gone for last rights if he stayed in the middle, which isn't the case there. But yeah, Judgment, you have the arrow coming in, and that's another big kill. And I mean, just look at this. They are 3 levels ahead already. Muradin! Oh, he actually survives this time. He actually survives at this point. Fair enough. But yeah, the bot lane has already been obliterated. The one in the middle is falling now. And topside, we are seeing Malthael just getting more XP. But I guess we can use this as a perfect example on how it actually really matters what kind of team composition you put together. The individual heroes that fill a role sometimes don't matter as much, but you can definitely get away with a preference pick. But there's a reason why you want to have an offlaner that has A, self-sustain, and B, has wave clear. And that's just non-existent on the side of Pineapple. They could have mitigated some of these problems by maybe picking Phoenix at least for one of the range damage dealers. He can take the solo lane at the start. It isn't a perfect setup, but it would have been better than what we're seeing here. Because right now, Team Pineapple is just getting picked apart. And that early lead in experience came not only because of the kills that we're seeing here for BTG Cougar, it came also quite a bit because of that lack of a proper setup that didn't allow them to soak the minion experience properly, and which put them far behind. Wow! Stitches misses the hook against the Tychus that takes the hands off the keyboard and the mouse here, and now they're getting flanked. Oh, you don't want to engage into ults like this. You don't have heroic abilities, guys. Oh my god. Oh, that's 3 down. No. Oh, they just forced a fight against heroic abilities without having them themselves, instead of just waiting for another half level. And the fort was already down. There was no reason to fight there anymore. Ooh, it's getting dicey here. 11 kills against 0. And, well, that's a freebie up the top lane now. Another objective about to be taken. Muradin is solo laning again. Oh, right in the fields. Right in the fields here. Muradin with Haymaker. I mean, at this point, what do you actually do there? Okay, they're trying to go for a camp, but BTG is saying, we're not going to give you anything. This is a 2 versus 4, by the way, that we're seeing here. This is a 2 versus 4. Oh, and Hanzo comes in and gets the kill with Alex. Okay, so level 13 versus level 10. Oh, the kill also from Malthael with the last rights here. Feels a bit bad for Pineapple. I mean, you gotta feel for them here. Again, we have a team of former HGC pros on the blue team, so they're doing what they trained for a long time. You can't really fault Pineapple for this. They had a bit of bad luck in the draw here, getting in one of the earliest rounds of the tournaments up against such a strong and experienced team. And obviously BTG is currently having a little bit of fun with this, but they're trying to go for another game that ends before 10 minutes. There's the 2 kills. Deckard and Stitches are both down. They go for Murden. He's dead as well. The Punisher is going full John Cena on us, as they're going for the core, and this is going to be game number 2, ladies and gentlemen, as BTG Cougar takes a 2-0 victory over Team Pineapple. GG, and well played.